All right. So this week we are blessed with Miss Adrienne Peddicord here. Adrienne, obviously my first question, you're one of a few Bora Bora alumni that has hopped on these calls. And so I'm asking everybody the question because obviously we're going to do this contest again. You know, how was Bora Bora? What can you tell us about your experience there in Tahiti?
Oh my God. Bora Bora. Okay, so like you know how you go places and you see on like Pinterest and stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, it looks like paradise. And then you get there and it's like really, really nice. Is that Franco? It's like really, really nice. Love him. And it's beautiful and crystal clear water, but it's not like, is it exaggerated as like the postcard? No, Bora Bora is literally, it's better than the postcard. It's just like the whole vibe and just the sand and the
I heard the
people, like
stingrays are pretty cool.
the stingray. I need you. There was a video and everyone was like, what are you grateful for? Like, what was your favorite part about the trip? And everyone's like, oh, you know, connecting with people. And then there's me like, the stingrays, I got to kiss the stingrays. But yeah, I got to kiss the stingrays and swim with them. And it was like, oh, care about and love at least one time gets to go to Bora Bora.
That's great. That's great. It was great every day seeing the videos coming in, and obviously Damien did a great job of keeping everybody connected to what was going on every day. But yeah, it looked like an awesome party. I'm glad we're doing that again. I guess the only question, we don't know where it's going to happen again, do we?
We narrowed it down. We had something called the debate. I assume they'll announce that at the at NatCon, but I think it's down to the Amalfi Coast, Bali, Indonesia, and New Zealand, I think was the three that we narrowed it down to. So one of those three.
Nice. Sounds like a fun debate.
Yes, it was. It was a good debate.
Like, let's not talk politics. Let's talk about exotic vacations. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. So I think what would be appropriate, I remember the first time I got to know you and hear your story. I mean, before you came into our business, you know, you were kind of a badass would be a nice way to put it. So why don't you give us a little bit of the pre-Peddicord time? You know, what was life like for you? What were you doing? Because I think, you know, where I want to go with this is we all want to hire somebody like you, I believe, because you're just a high achieving individual. So give us a little bit of your pre-Peddicord time.
Oh, I appreciate the kind words. So a badass. I worked very hard to get where I was, about 10 times harder than anyone else that was in that position. So I feel like anyway, it was a full-time job in itself. But prior to this, so I started this business at 29. Everything I did prior was in the medical field. So I was a PA. So I went to college at the University of Louisville. I got my undergrad in dental hygiene and I hated it, like despised it. And so I went for medical imaging at University of Kentucky. And I was a manager. I managed a facility called ProScan inside of Paul Brown Stadium. So I would type up surgical report, like if the players got hurt or the opponents, I would do their MRI, CAT scan, and I typed up surgical reports for the orthopedic surgeons to prep them for surgery. And then I went for my master's at University of Cincinnati. I was in an advanced program, so I was about 3.5 years ahead at that point. And I got my master's in nursing and then went to a hospital called Good Samaritan and got my PA license as a physician assistant. And then I specialized in emergency labor and delivery. So any kind of trauma, car accidents, multiples, like I was, that was my area of specialty. But then of course I just did like, you know, everyday deliveries as well. And so I did that for about 7.5 years prior to this. And what led me from going from that to this was I just tore my meniscus, both of them actually back to back, about 3 weeks apart. ProScan found some reason to let me go. And then I was on medical leave for the hospital and started this as something to kill time because I worked on average for the 8 years I was in that field, about 90 hours a week, approximately. It bounced between 89 and 91 hours a week. So I worked on call. And most of the time didn't know what day it was, or, you know, if it was daytime, nighttime, I had no idea, but that's all I knew. So it was very normal for me, extremely normal for me. And when I started doing this, I was just going stir crazy in my condo. It was just something to kill time. And then I had a orthopedic appointment for my physical therapy, and they were telling me, like, you're almost 30, you're not going to bounce back like you did when you were 22. Like, you're going to have to really walk and, break up this cartilage in your knee after these surgeries. So that was in March of 2017. So by May, I was like itching to get out, and my brother talked me into trying sales. And that's when Corey Capone called me, and he told me it was door to door. And I'm like, wait a minute. So, like, do you walk a lot? Do you walk from one door to the other and like try to pitch them? Like, are you walking a lot outside? And the guy interviewing me was like, yeah. And I was like, sign me up, baby. Like, I can break this cartilage up. It's summertime. I can meet dogs. And I just told Corey, like, it's super temporary. I'm going back to the hospital in November, but it'll get me uncomfortable. I'll learn something new, meet a few corgis maybe, and like have some fun with it. And here I am. I never went back. I think I put the whole world that knew me before into complete shock. Like, they thought I was having a midlife crisis, I think. But here I am.
No, you can divulge whatever type of numbers you'd like, but I mean, part of the challenge, I think, with Corey and the team is, in the medical profession, you were making a lot of money, right? So, I mean, how did our business compete with that? I mean, what turned you on and kept you in the game versus going back to medical and, pulling in 6 figures plus, at your old job?
Yeah. So if I break up, just let me know. I don't know why my internet's being weird. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, it's a little spotty.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Here, hold on a second. Let me see. Hold on, bear with.
I think she's officially frozen.
What about now? Can you hear me better now?
You're back.
Yes. All right. I switched the ones. Okay. So, yeah, I did. I made very good money before. I would make on my best year was right before I started here. In 2016 was my best year. Doing my taxes, I had made a little over $300,000. So I was very comfortable. Now, mind you, I had no time. And like, I'm the kind of person that I really don't give a shit what brand my shirt is, what car. I still drive my RAV4. I mean, I bought my husband his super nice truck, and like, I bought my house, paid cash for all that, but I don't care. I just don't care. If it gets me from point A to point B, like, and I'm indecisive about what I want, like, I just don't care. So like, my family lived really good. They all had great Christmases and vacations, but I will say I put in vacation time for 7.5 years, anywhere from a half a day to like 2 weeks for a family vacation. And I got denied for everything. I never once got approved for time off. One time they let me leave for like 30 minutes to go get a flu vaccination, and that was it. So like, I never ever got time off. And so for me, like, what drew me, like, it was very difficult because it was humbling. You don't realize what you need until like you need it. And looking in retrospect, going to the field at the time. So I was on Star Energy door to door when we started. And I mean, I sucked. I sucked pretty bad at first. So I took a 90% pay cut for real. Like, I was on pace to make like 34,000 that year. And then I got better and better. And then we switched to NRG retail, and I actually became #1 on Star towards the end. And then we switched to retail, and then that put me in culture shock. And we were on a based on usage system. So what my guys can do, getting 60 apps, like now, like they can make, $2,800 doing that, like $28 to $3,200. And my checks, I would do 60 a week. And I was just so relentless trying to like nail this down. But because it was based on usage, my checks were between $400 and $600 sometimes. And so I took a big hit. But my first my first 2 weeks in business, I went to a NatCon, and it was where Brandy was celebrating, I think, her 20 years in business. And I remember seeing her, and then I remember seeing Brandy. And then at the time there was a hillbilly on stage, which now I know is Justin Hageman, but I loved it because he was from Kentucky like me. I'm from a very, very small town in Kentucky called Rabbit Hash. So I remember thinking, oh God, if that hillbilly can do it, he's like sweating bullets up there, like, oh my gosh, like, could this be a career? And I'd be like, no, like, what are you talking about? You've got all the stuff you've done and worked so hard for. But I remember seeing people get checks, like these bonus checks. I think the largest was like 132,000 that year or something. And I was so far back in the corner, but I was looking on the Jumbotron. I was like, a bonus? Like, that's what I make. That's a third of my annual income. And I work 90 hours a week. Like, who is the smart one here? Like, what have I got myself into? And like, it started like spinning the wheels in my head. So it like put that thought, like, what if, in the back of my mind for the first time. And that was just, I'm super grateful for going to that, because that was like one of three things that just like put me all in, because I saw these women that had kids and that were living both. Because my boyfriend at the time, I told, there's no way, like, I won't commit to you, not because I want to like mess around, but like, I can't, it's not fair. Like, you're gonna get out. He was in the military, he was in school, and he was working full time. I said, your chaos will end, mine won't. And every other Sunday we had 6 hours that was all I could commit to him. And now he is my husband, and we have a beautiful 2.5-year-old daughter named Beazle. But like, prior to that, there was no way. I was married to my career, and that was that. Like, it was a or lifestyle. I can do this or this, So it was like my first big thing of the and lifestyle that Dorfman introduced me to down the road. And so I took a huge hit, but seeing these, what I did is I committed to myself. When I committed to this business, I said, okay, I'm going to give myself 3 years to at least be making what I was making. And if I can do that in 3 years, which is like a quarter of the time it took me to do it, like, the business just made sense to me. So not only was I going to make the same financially, so I knew I would at least like be back to where I was, but I was also going to have the freedom of time, which was worth even more than anything money could buy, to be able to like potentially maybe one day have a family, maybe marry Dave, or like travel, or take a vacation with my family and not pay for it, kind of thing, or both. So that's when the business made the most sense to me, was that it could give me that life that I had that belief, that limiting belief, that wasn't a thing. It was just, you had to choose. So that's what drew me to it more than anything. But yeah, I had to sell my motorcycles. I sold my bachelorette pad condo and moved into this little itty bitty apartment. I sold my Mustang. I had a GTO. It was all decked out, and I had a Hayabusa. I sold those and got a Mazda 3, which I later wrecked and got the RAV4. But I mean, I like really downplayed my life. I really started having to look at my money again. And I did a really stupid thing to prove, because I'm the high D. My leader didn't believe me. He kept putting on me like, oh, you have that to fall back on. And I put it in an account to where if you pull it, it takes a 30% hit. It's all still sitting there. It's at a 7-year plan, so I got 2 years to go. So but here we are. And it took me, honestly, I gave myself a 3-year mark, but I opened my business 10 months after I started. I won Rookie Owner of the Year, and I hit 423,000 the following April. So I had been in business a year. So it took me a year and 10 months ish, a little less than that, to make what I was making before. And then it just kept going up from there. So no regrets. But yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I think a lot of owners may be intimidated when they come across somebody like that, but I mean, anybody who's making big money, I mean, I've met lots of people outside of our business that have made a lot of money. Man, there is a trade-off. I mean, I have a friend of mine who he has to get a new passport every year because he fills up a passport. He travels over 300 days of the year, right? So he never sees his family. So there is something you're giving up, right? So, in many ways, many of us take our business for granted that you can have it all, right? It's like you said, it's not an or lifestyle, it's an and lifestyle. You can be successful financially and be a family person and have the freedom of time. So I think that's a great perspective that you came into the business with, because you saw what it was like on the other side of the fence, and that grass isn't greener. Sure, it's 300 grand a year, but at the expense of really being a slave to your career. I know those aren't your words, but that's what I'm hearing. I'm like, man, you didn't have the time to do anything. So,
No.
well, we're happy you chose to do this. You're a great role model. And so to shift gears here a little bit, I was asking you before the call, like, hey, what are you focusing on? I mean, obviously you had a bang in 2022, top 10, go to Bora Bora, all that stuff. I mean, you've been rookie of the year. I mean, you're right back to your old income and then some. So just kind of give us you bullet pointed like 3 or 4 things for me, but your big focus is running your office.
Yes, always. That's my priority. I made that like very, very clear to like everybody, like my husband, because without my business, like, I mean, my husband does great. He's a cop. He's a police officer for CPD Columbus Police Department now. But without my business, like, I'm the breadwinner, and we live a certain lifestyle at this point, to where it's nice. And my daughter's 2.5, and she's in a really nice school for a 2.5-year-old. And, I'm sure private school's next, and I'm sure I can only imagine how expensive that is. So like, without the business, there is no trips, there is no like time off with him, there is no nice schools for her. And so my business always comes first. And that was something we just established and agreed on early on. And he's super supportive of it. But I'm focusing a lot. I've hit lows. I went from 72 people to 4 people after the pandemic. And then we had some fraud instances. I got back up to 30. We went back to 7. I was just at like 34. I just let go of 7 other ones, like constantly like rotating out. I have very high standards. People have different perspectives on it and different opinions and whatnot, but it's something that has never failed me. It keeps me sane. So high standards are something that basically I let them come up with it. I let them tell me. So if I don't put anything in place that I can't do. So basically I would go out and I would do 60, like I said before, and that was my break even, especially after I put my money up. That was my break even, and that's what I needed to make it. And so my guys, I'm like, I would get them saying like, oh man, like we can't hit 60, I'm like, hey, I don't expect you to hit 60. I work 7 days a week by choice to master something, trying to get in my hours and like just trying to get better. And not that you never could, but I don't expect you to do that right now. And you don't ever really have to do that. But do you think you could do at least half? And everyone was like, oh yeah, I could do at least half. And so that's kind of how that started. And I've just never budged from it. Not even when we came back from the pandemic with the mask. I was pregnant. I was so pregnant. I was 8 months pregnant, swollen. And I was out there with the mask on and showing them it can be done. And so standards are something that I hold true to. Like if people are making money and they have a high standard, there's nothing that can go wrong because they're building their confidence, they're making money, they're not going to leave. And I mean, if I can get them past and through their emotions, because that's really the biggest thing is the emotional burden, or breakthrough, I should say, that it'll put someone through when they stick around. It always pulls through for me. And so I have high standards for my guys in the office. They all have to look good, feel good, like Ty. If they walk in with their shirt untucked, they know, they're like, oh shoot, she saw me, and I'm like, tuck it in, let's go, and standards meaning too, and all just like being on time and working your 8s and showing up ready to learn and being the example. So standards have always pushed through to me. And when I was gone for about 6 weeks. I went to Bora Bora, and then I had my forum group which Franco's part of. And then I also I take my whole family to the final. I take my dad at least, but I took my whole family this year to the Final Four as well. So I was gone for like 6 weeks. And when I came back, you know, my assistant manager I was surprised. He did really, really well, but they all know, and they know I'm looking. It slipped a little bit, but nothing crazy. And I think that that's what helps me maintain everything. Because even if things slip, there's such a high standard that even if they slip, it's still like way above average. And I always tell people, you know, fuck average, be savage. Like that's my life motto. Like, don't do anything to be average. We don't do this to be average. So that's one.
Yeah.
Other thing,
If I could interject with one thing, I mean, a lot of the highest producers are talking about, well, inflation's happened. I mean, 2023 is a much different year than 2020. I mean, everything just costs more. And so many of the owners have raised their standards. And it's interesting listening to you, you know, how do you say no to an 8-month pregnant woman who asks, can you at least do half of what I'm doing? Like, of course, but have you raised the bar much over this last couple years?
a little bit. I had really high standards before, but one thing what happened was when beer kind of went to the table and got our commissions raised. I know a big concern, Austin Wagner's our like our guy, our campaign, we get on calls with him, and he was really concerned and expressing like, hey, how are we going to do this? And the first thing everyone wanted to do was lower standards because recruiting was different and it was harder to get people in. And I was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? No, just now instead of hiring 10, you can hire 2, and the quality is higher because you're actually getting people that want to work and not just collect unemployment or like, you know, dick around. And then also with the way that inflation is happening, like why would standards slip? Because the average rep pay was like, it was trash across NRG, not from my office, but across it was like 600. And I'm going, what? Who can live on that pre-inflation? Like, if anything, guys, like we need to be upping standards or like holding standards at least so that, you know, the pay, the standard stays the same, but they get more pay. Like we don't lower to make it even. Like, why would you lower your standards to make it still the same amount of money? So for me, like one thing I have raised my standards. So it started at 16, which was, it used to be 12 for NRG, and I did 16. Then I was like, we can do more. Let's do 20. Then we did 25. So pandemic wise, we were around 25. And now my promoting leaders, the more responsibility they get, the longer they do it, the better they get. The team, they have to be at 35 to take interviews. So it's gone up 10, which is about $440 in production. So, I mean, yes, it's gone up quite a bit, I guess you could say, but the pay has gone up and just like the quality's gone up. So I don't have people overturning as much, and I have people like committing to goals. And so, I mean, if someone's going, because their guys are right behind them. Like if I go and do 40, my friendlies are probably going to do 35. Their guys are going to do 25, 30. And then that's a bare minimum. Like if you do less than 30, you're not getting any responsibilities. No, like you have to make about 1,500 to get interviews here. And if you do less than 25, more than 2 weeks in a row, you're gone. And if you do 25 1 week, like that's still 1,200. You just saved your job, but barely. And so I just have these conversations. I'm very systematic with it. They know it's coming. They know we're walking through like what to change, how to get better, but I'll get out there with them. I'll help them get better. And I think that's the key, because you can't hold a high standard if you're not like doing anything to help your guys stay at that standard, if that makes sense.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. You talked a little bit about purging, you know, currently you're purging, so you want to touch on that?
Yeah. So I do purge. I have so here's what I have found. So if I have people in the office doing really, really well, I do a lot of one-on-ones with owners, and here's the mistake that I find they make. And it kind of blows my mind. Like they will have this great group of people, and then they'll have like some, you know, mediocre, and then they'll have like this bottom part just like just dragging down their standards and their expectations and just like the quality, just everything. And they're afraid to let them go. They're like petrified to let them go. It's going to affect my wire so much, and it's going to do this and it's going to do that. And oh, it's affecting my guy's team. Well, that guy's not going to open with that team anyway. And you're only as strong as your weakest link. And what I have found again, over and over, is when I eliminate my bottom 20% consistently, every single person doing the right things appreciate it so much. Because we're in retail, we have limited space. It's not like res where we have like unlimited territory, right? So we have limited stores. And what people do is they take their weakest ones who aren't performing and they shove them in like the highest foot traffic, setting them up for success, and they still don't take advantage of it, but they get by the skin of their teeth, and they keep doing that and get in this vicious cycle of doing it. Well, guess what that means? All my top guys doing the right things are now going 2 hours out to the country stores. It's almost like, which they're fine with in short term, but if we have to do that every day, what motivation do they have to stick around? They're getting punished for doing the right things. And then the ones doing the wrong things are getting rewarded just to make it easier for them to hit standards for my wire. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So when I eliminate the bottom 20%, all of a sudden my leaders have this huge sense of relief because they're not dealing with like the drama or the emotion or the excuses or the thing, this limiting belief person that's, I call them soul suckers, that will suck the soul out of you. And now they can focus and put time and energy into the people on their team that are on our level or fighting to get there, that really want this. And so one thing I just I've never had someone come to me mad at me that I hold a high standard or I'm letting these people go. And I think that keeps the consistency. We might stoop a little bit, but my core group is so appreciative because they're just like, I've had people tell me like, I appreciate that you like have our backs on stuff, and that like, you know, when we do the right, and I announce it, hey, I know you see that there's a few people missing, but listen, this is for you, not me. I don't do what's best for me. I don't do what's best for you. I do what's best for the office. In the office, the best thing is to reward the people doing the right things, because I wouldn't want to be, you know, the one getting the short end of the stick because someone's not. And I think they really appreciate that. So I purge lightly throughout the year, but then like twice a year, like right before retail season in the fall, going like right before Thanksgiving and Halloween. And then I do it in the spring. It's like my spring cleaning, where I just get out everyone who was here through retail season when it was real busy and awesome. And now they are just like, oh, it's so bad, and making excuses. And I just like eliminate it. So it keeps the morale up too, like the energy in the office. I think it really helps keep the energy up as well.
That's great. Yeah, Franco just quoted a Ken Blanchard quote there. There's nothing more unequal than the equal treatment of unequals. Love that quote. And then just finish us off with like your personal, like you said, you're working on your personal, your fitness, your health. I mean, just touch on that.
Yeah, so some people in the office, like I just started working on it. So well, I gained 97 pounds when I was pregnant with Beazle. A lot of it was medical stuff, and it was like a lot of water retention, but I felt terrible. I'm 5'8", I usually weigh about 135 pounds. I weighed like 237 walking out of that hospital. And then I delivered this little human that was like 5 pounds. I'm like, seriously, that's it? Like all this weight. And so like I got very intentional with my health and my fitness, getting that water retention off. I felt terrible. Like I felt so bad. So I just like really worked on it and have been consistent with it. And there's a lot of people that come into the office that have fitness goals and stuff. So I just started including them. I call them at 6 a.m. We get on a video. We'll do some maybe some pedaling together sometimes, or even if it's just like an accountability snap, like, hey, I'm lifting, where's your squat? I'm not seeing no squat. Let's go. Where are you? You know, I did it with my girl Ara this morning, and I'm like, you're 45 minutes late. And she was like, I'm sorry, I'll make up for it tonight, you know, but it's just an accountability thing. So we're really, really, I think personal development is so important. Like if I don't put myself first, I mean, why would anyone follow me if I'm not working on myself, right? And then two, how am I supposed to think clear and be like the best version of me if I'm just like draining all my, like I have more energy and I'm more alert, more aware, and more in tune with everything going on when I put my health and getting me right first. Like that was something that I really woke up to, especially after having Beazle and my world was turned upside down. So we do a book club. So we just read this one. We read the 12. I'm on a mission. So I read 54 books last year. I'm gonna read 56 this year. Or I'm sorry, no, I read 52 books last year. I'm gonna read 56 this year is my goal. So I'm on pace to do that. I'm reading about a little over, like sometimes I'm at least averaging one a week right now. So we do a book club and talk about it, which has gotten other people reading them. And it's given me some killer content for leaders and morning meetings and stuff too. So that's helping. And then we're doing we do like on Fridays we do fun stuff. Tomorrow I'm doing an opportunity meeting, but we do like yoga. There's a rock wall place across the street, or we try to do, sometimes it's hilarious, but we attempt meditation, or we'll do some journaling or like some sort of awareness to like the eight C's is what we did today. So just to like get in touch with your inner circle, your inner family, if you guys have ever read that book. So we do a lot of personal development. I just bring them along with me, and I think it levels them up and builds confidence. It's all about confidence building. That's how I build confidence in myself. So if they end up wanting to follow, if I can get one or two, next thing you know, I have 13 people here at 7 a.m. and I'm like, we don't start till 9, and I'm just like, this is awesome that you guys are showing up excited to like do things like this with me. So it just makes me more energized. It makes me more excited to come in every day because like I really look forward to that. So it's that work-life flow that I look for. I hate the word balance. Who the hell wants 50-50? Like, right. So I look for that work-life flow to where work becomes part of my life and life is part of my work, and it just like flow, it becomes fun at that point. And that's super important for me.
Great, Adrienne. It's pretty clear you're a high achiever, on and off the court. I mean, you want it all, you're a very high achiever. You're not afraid to roll up your sleeves and go get it. And I'm going to have to send this video to my mom because I think she gained 100 pounds when I was in her belly. And I don't think she's ever forgiven me for that, so I'm the cause of that. But yeah, I appreciate it. Appreciate you sharing your personal stories. And again, you're a super competitive individual. You're hard to catch, and we appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your knowledge with us here today. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Anytime. I appreciate the kind words too.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Jamie.
Thank you, Adrienne.